My heart pounded as I listened to my father's voice, so calm, so smug, say the words that would shatter every dream I'd ever built. Your brother will take over now. I was still catching my breath from the exhilaration of growing our family business to a staggering $75 million, a feat I had poured my soul into, only to have my own father dismiss it with a smirk. In that moment, as the echoes of his callous words faded, I felt a storm of betrayal, disbelief, and fierce determination surge within me. All the late nights, the relentless risk-taking, and every sacrifice I had made suddenly seemed both a bitter triumph and a wound that refused to close. I grew up amidst the hum of machines and the constant bustle of our modest company, a business my father built from scratch in a small industrial town. My earliest memories were filled with the sound of clattering tools, the aroma of fresh coffee in the early mornings, and my father's gruff laughter echoing down the hallways of his workshop. He was a self-made man, known in the community for his relentless work ethic and a stubborn pride that both inspired and intimidated those around him. I always admired him, and I wanted nothing more than to follow in his footsteps. As a child, I would sit on his lap while he explained how each cog in a machine had its purpose, and how every dollar earned had a story. His lessons, steeped in grit and determination, became the foundation of my own aspirations. When I graduated from college with a degree in business, I returned home eager to contribute to the family legacy. My father reluctantly passed the reins to me, believing that I would honor his methods and traditions. I threw myself into the business, determined to expand our modest operation. I spent long nights poring over financial reports and market analyses, learning to balance the old-school wisdom of my father with innovative strategies I had learned at university. I introduced modern technologies, streamlined our processes, and, most importantly, built a dedicated team that believed in our shared vision. The journey was far from smooth. There were countless setbacks, economic downturns, unexpected maintenance crises at our plant, and internal disputes that threatened to tear the company apart. I vividly remember the sleepless nights after a major machinery breakdown that cost us thousands in lost production. I recalled the bitter taste of defeat after a failed marketing campaign that nearly forced us to lay off half of our staff. But with each obstacle, I learned, adapted, and grew stronger. I was determined to prove that I was capable of elevating the business beyond what my father had ever imagined. Slowly, the numbers began to climb. Our revenue increased steadily, and our market share grew in a competitive industry where tradition met innovation. I negotiated deals with new suppliers, secured investments from local venture capitalists, and even expanded our operations into new territories. Every achievement was a step toward realizing the potential of the business, a potential that soon reached an astonishing $75 million in valuation. I remember the day the final figures came in, a surreal moment when all my sacrifices crystallized into a tangible success. It was a day of bittersweet celebration. My team cheered, clients congratulated us, and I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. I had done it. I had grown the company beyond anyone's wildest dreams, including, I thought, my own father's. Then came the fateful phone call that would change everything. On a crisp autumn morning, after a night of triumph and exhaustion, I answered my phone expecting the usual congratulatory messages. Instead, my father's voice, cool and unyielding, informed me that due to a decision he'd made with clear intention, my older brother, whom I had always believed lacked my drive and vision, was to assume control of the business. "Your brother will take over now," he said, his tone devoid of any remorse or celebration of my success. The words crashed over me like a tidal wave. I stood in the quiet of my study, surrounded by reports and charts that chronicled our achievements, and felt a profound betrayal. Every late night, every risk, every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears had led to this moment of humiliation. At first, I was stunned into silence. I couldn't reconcile the image of the proud, self-made man who had raised me with the callousness of this decision. I had expected guidance, maybe even a few stern words about the weight of responsibility. Instead, I was dismissed as if my contributions were merely temporary stepping stones. My father had always been unpredictable, able to praise one moment and then dismiss the next. But this felt deliberate, calculated to undermine everything I had built. I remember pacing the length of my study, my mind reeling with questions. Why now? Was this a punishment? Had my father always intended for my brother to be the one to lead, and was I simply an obstacle in his plan? The shock quickly morphed into a burning anger that I could no longer contain. The next few days were a blur of tumultuous emotions. I avoided family gatherings, declining invitations to sit at the dinner table where my father's gaze, filled with an inscrutable mix of superiority and pity, would remind me of my supposed inadequacies. I spent long hours locked in my office, surrounded by the evidence of our growth, financial statements, marketing accolades, and a timeline of our expansion, and I began to see that I had, in fact, transformed the company in ways my father never envisioned. I reached out to key investors and partners, reassuring them of our continuing success, even as I grappled with the personal sting of being sidelined. In my solitude, I revisited the memories of all we had shared. I recalled the moments when my father had taken me under his wing, teaching me the trade secrets of the business and instilling in me a sense of duty and pride. Those memories were bittersweet now, for they were tainted by the realization that his affection, his mentorship, had been conditional, a tool to keep me in line until my brother could be favored instead. I wondered if I had been too ambitious, too eager to prove myself, and if that ambition had somehow incited his envy or disappointment. Determined to understand the full extent of his decision, I scheduled a meeting with my father at our family home, a modest, time-worn house that had once been a sanctuary of warm memories but now felt cold and distant. I entered his study with a mix of trepidation and resolve. He sat behind his desk, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth as if he had anticipated my arrival. "You've done well," he began, his tone measured. "But it's time for a change." I bristled, the years of unspoken resentments and harsh comments bubbling to the surface. "A change? You mean you're giving the business to my brother?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He simply nodded, as if this revelation was no more surprising than the morning news. "Your brother has a different vision, one that aligns with the future of our family legacy." His words were laced with condescension, and the smirk on his face deepened the cut. "And you," he added with a dismissive wave, "will step aside." The meeting ended with no real explanation, leaving me with more questions than answers. I left the house feeling disillusioned, betrayed by the man who had once been my mentor and guide. My mind churned with a cocktail of emotions, rage, sorrow, and a lingering determination to fight for what was rightfully mine. I began to realize that this wasn't just a personal slight, it was a fundamental rejection of everything I had worked for, an attempt to rewrite the narrative of our family legacy in favor of someone who, in my heart, was less deserving. At work, I threw myself into the business with renewed vigor. I refused to let my father's decision derail the momentum we had built. I convened meetings with department heads, restructured our growth strategy, and personally reached out to our most loyal clients to reassure them that our success would continue, regardless of any changes at the top. Every day was a battle not only for the company's future but for my own self-worth. I felt as though I were fighting an uphill battle against the legacy of favoritism and betrayal that had haunted our family for years. Late one night, as I sat alone in the quiet hum of the office after everyone had left, I found solace in the glow of my computer screen. I reviewed our financial reports once more. The numbers were undeniable, the growth steady and robust. I had grown our business to a phenomenal $75 million, a testament to my hard work, dedication, and innovative vision. I typed out long emails to potential investors, outlining the strategies that had propelled us to success, each word a reaffirmation of my competence. Yet, every keystroke was tinged with bitterness. My achievements, which should have been a cause for celebration, now felt like a cruel irony, a proof of my capability that my own father had chosen to ignore. One morning, as I reviewed a quarterly report, my assistant timidly knocked on my door, her eyes wide with concern. "Sir, there's been a call from the board," she said softly. My heart skipped a beat. I had been avoiding any mention of my father's decision, hoping it might somehow resolve itself, but the board was a neutral force that cared only about the bottom line. "What did they say?" I asked, my voice tight. She hesitated before replying. "They want to know about the succession plan. They're worried about continuity." My pulse raced. I knew exactly what they meant. My father's announcement had set off a chain reaction, and now questions of leadership and future strategy were unavoidable. That afternoon, I convened a board meeting in the sleek conference room of our corporate headquarters, a modern contrast to the old family-run traditions we had always adhered to. I presented our financial results, highlighting the growth and success we had achieved under my leadership. I spoke confidently about new market opportunities, innovative product lines, and strategic partnerships that would further propel us forward. Yet, beneath the professional veneer, I could feel the undercurrent of tension. Several board members exchanged uneasy glances, aware of the familial drama that threatened to undermine the stability of the business. I braced myself for their questions about succession, for the inevitable mention of my father's latest pronouncement. After the meeting, a senior board member approached me quietly. "You've done remarkable work," he said, his tone sincere. But you must understand, the board is concerned about the long-term vision. Your father's words have raised questions about who will lead us in the future. His words stung, not because they doubted my ability, but because they validated the betrayal I had felt. I nodded, promising to address the issue and provide a clear plan. Deep down, I vowed that I would not be sidelined. I would prove that my vision was not only valid, but essential for the company's future. Over the next several weeks, I worked tirelessly to secure my position. I met with key investors, outlining a revised strategic plan that incorporated emerging market trends and digital innovation. I reorganized the executive team, bringing in fresh talent that aligned with my vision. I made sure that every department, from R&D to customer service, was aligned with the new goals. The process was grueling. There were sleepless nights, endless meetings, and moments of self-doubt, but I knew that if I did not fight for my rightful place, my father's favoritism would tear our family and our business apart. Then, one crisp winter morning, as I was preparing for another long day of negotiations, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. It was from my father. I hesitated, bracing myself for another tirade, but his voice was soft, almost tentative. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "I never meant to hurt you. Your brother? He's always been the one I trusted for certain things." His words, though apologetic, only deepened my hurt. "I grew this business, Dad," I replied, my voice catching. "Every success, every risk, I did it all. And now you say my brother will take over?" There was a long silence on the other end. "I thought it was best for the family," he finally whispered, "for continuity." The conversation ended abruptly, leaving me with a swirling mix of anger, sorrow, and a renewed determination to prove my worth beyond their flawed judgments. I threw myself into my work, using my pain as fuel. I pushed my team harder, striving to innovate and to secure new markets. The results were astounding. The company's value continued to climb, nearing the $75 million mark I had dreamed of. Each milestone was a bittersweet reminder that I had built something remarkable on my own, something that my father's outdated expectations could never diminish. I began receiving accolades from industry peers, and even the media took notice of the turnaround story, a young executive who had transformed a legacy business into a modern powerhouse. Yet, amid the praise, I could not escape the bitter taste of betrayal. The board's concerns gradually diminished as my strategic vision began to yield results. But every victory was tempered by the knowledge that my father's words still haunted me. I had proven my competence, my dedication, and my ability to lead, but at a steep personal cost. I had lost the trust of a man who was supposed to be my mentor, my guiding light. And in his place, his brother, who had long been overshadowed by my efforts, was being positioned as the heir apparent. It felt like a final, stinging rejection of all I had sacrificed. One evening, as I sat alone in my office late at night, reviewing the latest financial projections, I looked up at a framed photograph on my desk, a picture of my father and me from a long-ago family picnic, both of us smiling with genuine warmth. I wondered if he ever truly saw the blood, sweat, and tears I had poured into the business. Had he always planned for my brother to succeed me, using me as a stepping stone? The thought was unbearable. I resolved then that I would not let this legacy be defined by favoritism and betrayal. I would fight for my rightful place, not just for my own sake, but for the sake of the company, for the sake of preserving a legacy that deserved integrity. In the following weeks, I reached out to trusted mentors, former colleagues and industry experts who had once advised my father. Their insights, though tinged with nostalgia for the old ways, reinforced my belief that innovation and adaptability were key to the future. I began to articulate a bold vision for the company, one that merged traditional values with cutting-edge technology. I proposed new initiatives like digital marketing strategies and online sales platforms that promised to catapult the business into a new era. The more I talked, the more I realized that my father's archaic ideas were a hindrance to progress, and that my vision was not only viable but necessary for survival in a rapidly changing market. I also took steps to secure my legal rights within the company. I worked with a corporate attorney to review shareholder agreements, partnership contracts, and every piece of documentation that might affirm my contributions. It was a painstaking process, revealing years of hidden expenses, misallocated funds, and decisions that had been made without my input. Every irregularity was a reminder of the obstacles I had overcome, and of the challenges that still lay ahead. I knew that if I wanted to protect my hard-earned success, I would need to arm myself with both legal and financial acumen. Then came a turning point that changed everything. At an annual shareholders meeting held in a renovated conference center, I was invited to present my strategic plan for the next 5 years. The room was filled with investors, board members, and industry leaders. My presentation was met with enthusiastic applause, and for a moment, I felt as though I had silenced the lingering doubts about my leadership. I spoke passionately about innovation, about merging the legacy of our family business with the demands of a modern market. I unveiled plans for new product lines, international expansion, and digital transformation that would not only secure the company's future but elevate it to unprecedented heights. As I concluded my presentation, one board member leaned in and whispered, "You truly are the future." His words were a balm to my wounded pride, a validation of every sacrifice, every sleepless night spent worrying about whether I'd ever be enough. I allowed myself a small smile, a fleeting moment of triumph in the face of my father's earlier dismissals. Yet even in that moment of professional victory, the personal betrayal loomed large. My father's earlier smirk and his cold proclamation that my brother would take over haunted me. I felt as though I had conquered the market but lost the very heart of my family. I questioned whether success in business was truly a measure of one's worth if it came at the cost of personal relationships. I began to reflect on my own values and wondered if I could ever reconcile the two worlds, the cutthroat world of business and the intimate realm of family. One evening, after a particularly productive day at the office, I sat by my window and penned a letter to my father. I wrote about my achievements, my dreams, and my deep sense of hurt at his rejection. I expressed my hope that he would someday see that my contributions had been genuine, that my sacrifices were made out of love for our family legacy. I questioned him gently, was it ever about me, or was it always about protecting someone else's pride? I sealed the letter with a trembling hand, unsure if I would ever send it, but knowing that the act of writing was cathartic, a release of years of pent-up emotion. As time marched on, the company's value continued to climb, reaching new milestones that further solidified my position. I celebrated quietly with my team, those who had stood by me through the tumultuous changes, and even managed to secure a few new major contracts that promised to push our revenue well into the future. My personal life, though marred by the betrayal, slowly began to heal as well. I reconnected with old friends, rediscovered hobbies that I had once abandoned, and even began to entertain the possibility of new love. Love built on mutual respect and shared values, not on the shaky foundations of favoritism. Every now and then, I would receive messages from my father. A rare phone call here, a brief note there, each time tinged with a mixture of regret and resignation. He never fully apologized, but sometimes he would say quietly, "I'm proud of what you've done." Those words, though few and far between, offered a bittersweet comfort, a reminder that even in our failures as a family, there was room for growth and redemption. But they could not erase the memory of that devastating moment when he had dismissed my hard work with a single, callous sentence. I continued to build the company with a fierce determination. I hired new talent, invested in technology, and even revamped our branding to reflect a modern vision that honored the past while embracing the future. My efforts did not go unnoticed. Industry accolades and media features began to spotlight my journey. A daughter who had taken a struggling family business and turned it into a powerhouse valued at $75 million. It was a triumph that filled me with pride, yet it was always shadowed by the unresolved pain of my father's betrayal. Late one night, as I sat alone in my office reviewing the quarterly report, I realized that success could be both a victory and a void. I had achieved financial and professional milestones that many would envy, but the cost had been my trust and, in a way, my connection to my family. I wondered if I would ever be able to fully forgive my father, or if his words would always echo in my mind as a reminder of his callousness. That night, I wrote in my journal about the duality of triumph and loss, the bitter irony of success built on the foundations of betrayal. I resolved that while I could never forget, I could choose to move forward with a heart that was guarded yet open to healing. In the ensuing months, the legal battles and corporate restructuring gave way to a more stable rhythm. I found solace in the small rituals of everyday life: morning walks with my loyal team, quiet dinners where we celebrated little victories, and occasional phone calls with my mother who, despite everything, tried to bridge the gap between us. The bond with my father remained fractured. He rarely reached out, and when he did, his words were measured and distant. I realized that some relationships, once broken, might never fully mend. Yet, I also learned that I could still find meaning and love in the connections I nurtured with those who truly valued me. As the year drew to a close, I organized a company retreat at a local resort, a chance for my team to celebrate our achievements and to recharge for the future. Amid the laughter, shared stories, and renewed camaraderie, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey I had endured. I had transformed personal pain into a driving force for success. I had turned the bitter taste of betrayal into a reminder that I was capable of so much more than anyone had ever believed. In the glow of that retreat's bonfire, as I looked around at the faces of colleagues who had become like family, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. I would never again allow someone's narrow vision of family loyalty to dictate my destiny. Today, my business stands as a testament to resilience, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Every challenge I faced, every betrayal I endured, has shaped me into the leader I am now, a leader who commands respect not through authority alone, but through the unwavering belief in the power of integrity and hard work. I have learned that success is not just measured by financial metrics, but by the courage to stand up for one's truth, even when it means going against those you once loved. There are still moments when I catch a glimpse of my father's face in my mind, a flicker of the man who once taught me the value of hard work, now marred by a betrayal I can scarcely forgive. But in those moments, I remind myself that my worth is not defined by his approval, nor by the narrow expectations he once held for me. I have carved out my own path, built my own legacy, and I will continue to do so with the strength of every scar and every hard-won victory behind me. As I write this, my heart is lighter, my vision clearer. The storm of betrayal has passed, leaving in its wake a profound sense of empowerment. I have learned that even when those we hold dear turn their backs on us, we have the strength to rise, rebuild, and redefine our future. I now stand as the sole architect of my destiny, a woman who grew her father's business to $75 million only to have it undermined by familial favoritism, and who, through resilience and determination, reclaimed her rightful place in both the corporate world and her own heart. This is my story, a story of ambition, betrayal, and ultimately redemption. It is a story of how I transformed a moment of devastating loss into a journey of self-discovery and triumph. Every setback, every cruel word, became a stepping stone that led me to this moment, a future that is bright, independent, and entirely my own. I have learned that while the scars of betrayal may never fully fade, they can serve as powerful reminders of the strength we carry within. And as I move forward, I do so with the unwavering belief that my destiny is mine to shape, regardless of anyone else's narrow vision or misguided loyalties.